On your left, Clio. To the left. No, here, to the left. Sorry. Are you a doctor who does not know what's left or right?
Today, I don't even know which day it was. You know, I was on the phone before coming with a friend of mine, and I was like, Claudia, what day is it today? Is it Wednesday, Thursday? I said, okay, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign.
Is that a menopausal thing?
Nein, ich glaube, dass es, weil meine Tage sind sowieso immer die gleichen.
Your days are full?
Full und immer gleiche, weißt du?
Okay.
Auch am Wochenende. Es gibt keine echte Trennung von was ich wirklich mache. So, that's why, you know, I keep working every day and then, nein, es war wirklich Reisen. Ich war in Bern.
Let's keep it in English.
It was, we started? Okay, it was, you know, I've been, Monday I was at home. Tuesday I was in Berna. Yesterday, Milano, back. And, you know, tomorrow I'm going to be at home.
So that's why you don't know which date we have, which day we have.
Exactly. When you move too much, is it like this? Right.
Yeah, you can take it closer. Don't eat it, don't lick it.
Okay, no. Absolutely not. I drink some water with it.
I'd go and drink the champagne. I don't know if that's helpful for my English, but let's see. Dottore Antonella Santuccione Ciada.
Esatto.
What a pleasure to have you here. It's amazing to have you here.
It is an honor, and it is an exchange on what we have been also building together, because thanks to you and what you have been doing for me, for the foundation, I think...
No, you did that.
No, but also your recognition, you know, received a prize, which meant a lot.
I know.
And it changed quite some things, you know, for your journey.
We have awarded you with the Empowering Women Award like 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago, that's correct. That's correct. So
but you did the job. Don't underestimate what you are doing.
No, I think that the job is done by a collective of people.
Don't say no.
I think that, I mean it really, the success of an individual is done by all the people you meet along the journey, even your enemies.
I know, it takes a village too.
Exactly. So I think that it's an evolving journey consisting of the people who support you, the people who mentor you, but also the people who challenge you or who are your enemy, right? Because you evolve, you overcome, you transform. So the success of the work that we are doing at the Women's Brain Foundation, it's a collective effort of scientists from all over the world. And I can say from Australia to United States, Canada, North Europe, Spain. I mean, you name it, you have it. So it's not just me. It's an army. You need an army also to solve this problem, right? I mean, maybe we should say why I got the award, which is the huge unmet need about women and how we have been neglecting within the medical ecosystem, from preclinical science to clinical development, the female component. So we have identified this gap. We have been working now since 9 years. Next year is going to be 10 years. 10 years anniversary. Can't imagine that time went so fast. And we've been transforming, I think, a little bit the world for the better outcome of women all over the planet. I always say that if Bill Gates now speaks about women's health, ich kann eigentlich pensionieren. Mich lassen. Sagt man so?
You can retire.
I can retire. That's correct.
But why did this, let's put it that way, like a gender lens did not exist in your industry? You're a medical doctor, neuroscientist, just to give you some background out there. Why did that gender lens in the medical, as a doctor, why did that not exist so far?
So there are good reasons, and I will say less good reasons. The good reasons were that at some point there have been cases where some medications showed to have teratogenic effect, either on the offspring, meaning the child of a woman, or, major adverse event, especially when women were pregnant. And so there was a decision to literally exclude women of childbearing age from clinical trials. And so this could be seen as kind of a good reason, if you know what I mean. it is a delicate phase of a life of a woman. We have a life inside our belly. We are more delicate for several reasons, and whatever impact us might impact the development of a child. But in the time we are today, where we have a completely different constellation, I think this is not acceptable any longer. And we will come back to this in a second. The bad reason is that women, as you might know, were certainly not at the center of the development of the society entirely. So I don't think that it's a problem that it's embedded only in medicine. We live in a world that has been designed for the male population, right? So this impacted also medicine, of course, which means there is a bias, a prejudice that it is permeating also the medical and the research field to a point that women are not really included in clinical development. And, the good reason we mention is one, but in fact, for me, what it's not at all justifiable is the fact that even in the laboratory where we have mice models or where we have cells in vitro system, we do not systematically consider the sex of the cell or the sex of the animals when we make an experiment. I'll give you an example. There is one drug that it's very well used, metformin. It's for diabetes, right? And there was a study published in 2024, September, so more or less 1 year ago, on Cell, which is one of the best scientific journals, if you know what I mean. It takes quite some time to make through a Cell publication because it's years of research, peer review. People really checked that the quality of the science, it's extraordinary. So the title was like, metformin is rejuvenating the brain of monkeys of 7 years. You say, whoa, that's fantastic, It's an amazing news that if proven to be true also in humans will be just, a wonderful news for everyone. But what if I tell you that the animals, the monkeys included in the study were only male? Only male animals. And what if I tell you that neurodegenerative diseases are affecting predominantly women? We have that 70% of patients with Alzheimer are women. So it's a paradox.
Okay. Do we know by now why it affects more women than men?
Oh, this is a very, very interesting question. And unfortunately, we don't have yet a precise answer. What we know is that Alzheimer's disease, it is a multifactorial condition. So there are multiple reasons why you might develop this disease at the end of your life, hopefully. So there are also cases that start earlier, but this is mainly due to genetic mutations, which are more rare. Now, late onset Alzheimer's disease, let's call it like this, as I said, it's multifactorial and it certainly impact the women population for reasons that are related to changes across the perimenopausal phase. So it's very much debated as whether estrogen that are neuroprotective dropping during the perimenopausal and menopausal phase might pose the risk of women to this type of disease. But it's also about the lifestyle. It's how we live. For instance, the WHO, the World Health Organization, has been identifying specific risk factors for having Alzheimer's, such as social isolation, depression, lower education.
Why lower education?
Because one of the real identified preventative factor for not having Alzheimer's or dementia when you're old, it is studying. So what I always say to girls, it's keep studying. And most importantly, the question is...
Be curious,
Yes,
also
train your brain. For example, there was just now an interesting article came out, I think just last week, proving that those who speak many languages,
languages,
they have maybe I'm not an example. I speak very bad German, but that's another story. So maybe you have to master those languages. I don't know. This wasn't. This was not described in the study. But those who have, the lucky of talking multiple languages, and I think Swiss, for example, Swiss people are a perfect example because here you master many languages by default, are more protective than others who don't in not developing dementia. So back to education, the question though, for women specifically, is it just education, years of education within the early phase of your life, or is it continuous education, which usually is more favorable for men because they stay in the working system, they are more,
Understood.
they have training, they have, they stay in a system that keep on educating them somehow, weiterbildung and so weiter and so forth. Women, on the contrary, maybe they go to university, they manage the years of study, but then they stay home with kids. And that's a miss. So there are these risk factors for Alzheimer that are more specific for women. For instance, social isolation. This is about caregiving. Majority of people around the world doing caregiving, either paid or unpaid, are women. This is about 80%. Depression. Depression, it is a specific risk for dementia, and 80% of people suffering of depression in the world are women. So, you asked me, why do we know? I think that there are multiple components due to biology of women specifically, but also to the gender component, so the way women live within a given society. And that's what we're doing at the with the work of the foundation. We're trying to understand what's the reason, what's happening from a neuroendocrine point of view, so which are the changes in the body of a woman, hormones, and, proteins, metabolomics, microbiome, all these kind of things, and societal wise, what is making women more prone to have this disease?
You just mentioned it. You have soon your 10th anniversary with the foundation. What was like the most shocking thing you have heard or experienced or found out in this 10 years?
Okay, I have to admit that I'm a person that it's not that easy to be shocked by news, because if you work as a medical doctor and have done 6 years of acute psychiatry, I'm coming from a family where my father was an undercover policeman.
No way.
Yes, so I think that there are little things that shock me. There are things that makes me wonder. There are things that make me upset. And that was the reason why I decided to found the Women's Brain Project
in the first
first,
place, yes.
And then the Women's Brain Foundation today, because before we were an association, we became a foundation. The thing that made me upset was my first pregnancy. I don't know if you know this story.
Tell me.
Yeah, I could not talk about this until a few years ago. For me, it was like a drawer that nobody could open. And
you put it away.
Yeah, it was just confined in a safe space. And if I would have thought about this, I would have been crashing into tears. And still now, I can get emotional when I think about it. But to make the story short, if one can shorten it somehow, I had a wonderful encounter. And this is the person that shares with me my daily life. And we wanted to have a family. And there was a young doctor, and I was doing neuroscience, and I was doing psychiatry, and I was watching at brains every day, every single day. I was successful. I was young, full of energy. You're in the midst of your life. And finally, you managed to marry, by the way, an Indian man, which was kind of a drama. It was a kind of a Bollywood, Hollywood, Italian drama, because the two families had to come together. Nobody wanted us to be married. Finally we made it. Well, you won't believe it. The first pregnancy, it was a baby girl, and she didn't have the scalp formed. So her brain was floating in the amniotic fluid. And, that was for me something unbelievable, because I said, why me? I was a medical doctor going to have an ultrasound, and I was thinking, maybe the heart, maybe one heart, but the brain. to me, the brain that I was watching every single day to the brains of either humans or animals and putting neurons every day in a plate. So that was when I was upset. That was when I was wondering. And my wondering was like going to search what happened, why to me. I was a researcher, right? I wanted to know the reason why. And among multiple reasons, that of course are all speculation because nobody really knows, what it came out as a fact was that apparently these neurodevelopmental issues are more frequent into baby girl, in either
girls,
female,
baby girls than baby
either
boys.
female fetus or female embryo. And that was, I think, the hidden reason why I decided to study the women brains.
So
that
the differences.
Why it was more sensitive to those diseases, because it's not really about differences. We all know that we are somehow different, and you don't need a scientist telling you that we drive in a different way. What we need to understand is why we disease in a different way than men, and why those diseases that affect the brain are more predominant in the female population. As we said, is it our biology? Is it our functioning? Or is it the society, the way we live? And whatever the reason is, we have to solve it, because I find it unacceptable that 80% of the patients with migraine are women, 80% of the patients with multiple sclerosis are women, that 80% of people with depression, as we said already, are women, anxiety 80% female, Alzheimer's disease 70% women. So, it's profound. And then, of course, this was the reason why. Then I started to realize, because I worked as a regulator at Swissmedic for 4 years, that was my professional reason as why I decided to do what I do. It was the wondering moment. I said, okay, wait a second, we have to fix this. Because I was assessing drugs for the Swiss market in terms of efficacy and safety. And I was witnessing that they were differing in the way they were functioning between men and women in terms of results of a clinical trial and how the drug has its effect, but also the safety profile. So these two components made me decide to start this wonderful journey. And I'm thankful to life, because it's my purpose. It's really my passion, my drive, my force, my energy, my obsession.
That's what drives you.
Yes.
That's why you're so well here at the Ladies Drive podcast, right?
Exactly.
But we know each other since several years, and I see you fight a lot with what you do. Why is it a fight? Why is not everybody saying, hey, we give you the money, we give you the funds, we have to fix that? Why on earth do you have to fight to have
there
that
are
fixed?
There are multiple reasons. So the first one, it's about perception. It's what we perceive in terms of funds to be allocated for such an issue. Investors think, for instance, that this is kind of a niche. Women's health, it's a niche, and which is not, because we are half of the people living on this planet.
We're 51%.
Exactly, you correct me. It's even more. And they also believe that it's something that does not belong to them. So there is the intrinsic bias that each of us has. Majority of investors are anyhow men, so they don't see this as a priority, right? I mean, you need women to fix this together with men, but it's our responsibility to fill in this gap, because if you think that someone will stand up for you and fight your fight and pick up your fight, that's not the case. Another thing is that, philanthropy, it's not easy. Europe, and it's not United States, it's not UK. So there is the perception that the funds must be coming from the public sector. So, research is usually funded by public money. Now, when you speak about public funds, of course, you have universities. And universities have the priority. They get most of the funds. And nevertheless, I believe that maybe I shouldn't say this, it's not so politically correct. But again, we go back to who is going to solve the problem. The problem will not be solved, in my opinion, by those who made the problem.
Usually not.
Right. So you need to have new forces coming in. And
new approaches.
Approaches, new ideas, new forces joining in, new perspective. If you have been the cause of the problem, it's very difficult then to even solve it on your own. I mean, I give you an example. Why in business you get your consultant? You're stuck with your business idea and then you get some consulting you from outside with strategy, with whatever, and then the business fly. Because if you are, just stuck on your problem on your own, you're not able to solve it, whatsoever. And the same is true for pharmaceutical industry. So, you need new players.
To be clear on that, the pharmaceutical industry has no interest?
No, they are learning, and they are collaborating. But of course, it's not yet a collective priority. There is now a movement that has been endorsed also by our foundation. We are part of that. And there is, for instance, the Global Women's Health Alliance of the World Economic Forum, which it's consisting of multiple players from the private and public sector. And what if I tell you, though, that one of the main leaders now in this community driving the change is Microsoft, the outsider?
Okay, what is the interest of Microsoft in investing here?
I think
what's the game here?
I don't have an answer. I can only speculate because I'm not within Microsoft. But I was surprised to see that it's not the classical player. Comes now a company like Microsoft that deals with data, that deals with IT solutions to be part of the game changer. So maybe they have a different mindset. And maybe they see an opportunity for sure. There must be a business opportunity. It is a business opportunity. It's a huge business case. So this is why, to your point, why do people do not invest? I don't know. Actually, we know this very famous 1 trillion return of investment report that was kicked out in Davos in 2024, the McKinsey Institute of Health. 1 trillion return of investment by 2040 if we do research in women for women. I went to them, to the McKinsey Institute of Health. I knocked at the door and I said, excuse me, can we please check how much of this 1 trillion goes to the brain? Because that was like research for the entire women's health gap. You won't believe it. 1/4 of that 1 trillion goes just to the brain of women.
1/3.
1/4.
1/4.
Which is, 250 billion return on investment by doing research on the brain of women, showing that this is one of the most understudied, underserved organ of the entire body. So there is a business case, there is a business opportunity. I'm just back from Milano. I'm a bit tired. I share with you already. I met, for example, a venture capital that is now making a fund allocated funding specifically for women's health. It's not easy because they also share the fact that to have people investing into this type of funds, it's not obvious, and they still think that women's health is fertility, so reproduction, and how I call it, the bikini medicine. No, we are beyond the bikini medicine, in my opinion. We have a brain, we have knees.
That's a good thing. We have a brain. Sorry, cheers to that.
Yes. Let's cheers.
Cheers. Women have a brain. Yes.
And to this point about the women's brain, that piece of work we did with the McKinsey Institute of Health was the reason why I wanted to introduce a new concept, which is the female brain capital. Or the women brain capital. We have a brain. It's our biggest asset. It's our capital. And if you empower and if you power this machine also for women, I think that the planet is going to flourish. So it's, Marx.
Why do you think that it will flourish?
Oh, well, now we open a debate. We can stay here the whole night
shall I
and
add
day.
Some more champagne to your glasses?
So why I think is that, I believe that women are wired by a different energy and a different mechanism that men would. We are different. I strongly believe that these differences are profound, whether it's, as we said, our biology mixed with the societal construct or just biology or more the societal construct. I don't know. I am not a sociologist. I'm not into this. All I know is that there are obvious signs that in many regards we differ. And I give you an example. There is a study that was done by Blanca Morrison, I think it's her name, from the the Facebook guy, what's his name? Remember, I need to remember.
This is Zuckerberg?
Genau. So she's doing her study over there. And he has a lab research, apparently funded. She was proving in a beautiful piece of research that literally the brain of... Oh, let's start again. You have a mouse. You put a female mouse in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
This female mouse has not become mother yet, so she's a virgin, okay? And then there is a nest with all the little puppet mouse, mice that cry. One is out of the nest and cries more, cries louder. She doesn't care. The mouse in the cage.
So the virgin doesn't care.
The virgin doesn't care. She just keeps on roaming around and she looks around. She doesn't care. You put any mouse that was already a mother in the cage, she takes the baby crying and puts it back, though despite it's not his baby, right? And then she went and studied the brains of this animal, and she realized that there are different parts of receptors, especially in a specific area of the brain, which is more temporal, the temporal region, if I remember correctly. Basically, those neurons get activated by oxytocin and vasopressin, all these type of hormones that are produced in a female body, if you know what I mean, more than in a male one. Despite she proves that also the father can have this.
I just wanted
exactly
to say that.
Exactly. It's for
not
both.
that men do not have
No.
oxytocin.
Also men have this type of neurons that get activated, and this part of the brain that gets more functional than it used to be when they were not parenting.
Yes.
But women have it more. It's more profound in the female animal, at least. That's what she showed. This is an obvious example. And there are plenty I could give. There are lots of study pointing at differences in morphology, in structures of the brain, and how we respond to stimuli, to pain. There is a vast literature, scientific literature, pointing to these differences. But back to the question: why the capital? Why there is a capital? Why it's going to change the world and flourish the world? Because we bring a value like empathy, Mitgefühle, and compassion. Exactly, this compassion, this empathy that it's, in my opinion, missing from the collective leadership of this planet. So I believe, if I could choose the world I would love to live in, I would love to see a world led by breastfeeding mothers, young women breastfeeding and deciding what to do in terms of where to invest our money for the next 10 years, which should be the country with whom we partner, and what type of priority we give for a national plan in terms of, policy and changes. Because I'm pretty sure that those collective of women will not decide to bomb, will not decide to make a war. They will not decide on return of investment that are 2 years from now, 3 years from now. They will have a long-term strategy planning, because, our brain is wired to have that long-lasting impact. It's known.
I do understand what you mean.
It's a provocative thought. It's an utopia.
I get your point, but still, half of the population is male.
Of course. It's an utopic
You have
vision.
a husband you love.
Of
I have
course.
a husband I love.
But yes.
So how do we make sure that also the future male leaders of this planet are part of this more empathic collective? Let's put it that way.
I think that, the only way to co-create. So my example before was really like an utopian vision, a provocative thought, and an experiment that we never had. Some people come to me and say, but also women can be blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, fine. Maybe this experiment is going to fail, but let's do it once. Let's try. Let's try to have, 10 years of the world led by women. And men can have fun, can go play golf, they can play football. If it fails, it fails. But at least let's have it once. Anyhow, This is just a joke. To your question and being serious, I believe that co-creation is an essential element, and dialogue. I believe that diversity is an empowerment. I live diversity and inclusion and understanding on a daily basis. I married a person of an Indian with some German traits. I live in Switzerland. My kid speaks 5 languages. There is a melting pot, and cultures had to come together. So this is an example, right, of how a man and a woman can create a family, can flourish, you need two components to have a wonderful outcome and the great results. So if we can do this on a family daily base in a protected environment, right, like our families, and we get a child, we can manage to buy a house together. So it's an example that it works when men and women work together. Then we should extrapolate this example to government, for example, where we have enough women, enough men discussing together, and women bring the feminine component and man brings the masculine component, and this has to come together, like in a normal couple on a daily basis when you manage your household. Is it like this? No. Will they let us do that? When I say will they, I refer to the male population. They have to give us space. Now, this pink quota, they are highly debated. I believe that as far as we don't implement those with incentive, we will never get there. It will take really too long to have that type of equity and parity in decision making. I'm talking about decision making of this planet. I mean, it's a serious concern. I can't see any longer. I can't even formulate it. I refuse even to pronounce it. When I see that decisions like big commercial agreement or war agreement, or it's done by always the same crowd. Usually it's an old man, pretty old, with a life coming to an end, that sits on a chair where if you push the button, he can decide to, bomb this planet. This is for me not acceptable. I would love to see diversity. I would love to see men and women. I would love to see colors all over the world. I know it's utopian, but I think if we will have more of a melting, we will have less of struggles.
I just read a book about indigenous tribes, First Nations in the United States. And this author mentions that at the core of most issues we see today in politics and economy, this very white old man, let's put it that way, that happens because we are so much disconnected. Because a lot of indigenous tribes are very equal societies. Women have been very important in all of these tribes, right? And we kind of lost that. Why did we lost that? What's your opinion about that?
Because we have centuries of patriarchal, colonial.
But what happened from, we all have been in tribes going from one place to another until now. Why did it happen in the first place?
I don't have an
answer. You
answer.
have a theory about that.
I have, I'm not a sociologist. I didn't study history enough to give
No, I'm just asking about your personal...
My personal opinion is that, I could give you a bit of a non-politically correct answer.
Yeah,
I think that a lot is also in our gene and epigenetics, which means there are some traits of some whatsoever to prevail on others, right? And history taught us that culture, together with religions, together with dominance, with the willingness to conquer, can make all this possible and happening. And mankind is driven by greediness. You want to have always more and more and more. I also think that the fact that men have been deciding mainly on their own, they must have been identifying the power at some point in the women, in the female body, in the female. They must have been identifying something extraordinarily powerful to relegate it to where they've left it for so many centuries and millennials. Do you know what I mean? Because then they created a society that it's really just done for putting women at the end of the whole chain, at least this part of the world, as far as I know. And in some places it's still existing and even worse than what we have accomplished here. So...
But it's so weird because if you ask men all around the globe, if they appreciate their mothers. They will say yes. But what happens?
Because maybe they appreciate them so much and they've seen so much power that if those mothers will leave the household and rule them out of the household, they will fear. And that's why they created, I think, a society where women for too long have been left behind and relegated to a role that was even humiliating their intelligence. That's what history tells us. I mean, we had to struggle and fight a lot. And that's what I always say to young women and also to less young women. We should not underestimate how fast all our achievement can be taken away in a second, if you wish what I mean. And we see it happening every day around the globe, even in what we define democratic society and developed countries. So we have to be very careful. We can't rest. We can't get distracted. We have to support one another. We have to learn from what men did. We have to work with them very closely and embrace and cheer. I mean, of course I love men, and I all my collaborators are predominantly men. I learn from them. They're my role model. In many ways, I had many male role models together with female ones. But they have to give us the space we deserve. And we should not take the nonsense we've taken for so long. Basta.
Basta.
Sì.
The Italian comes through. Basta. Provocative question. If you would be a man, having the man's foundation about male medicine and the male brain, would we have the same conversation?
No.
I always love to flip it to test it,
No,
because then you realize
the problem doesn't even exist for them, right? I mean, no, we wouldn't have this conversation. And yesterday I was in Milano to an event organized by another foundation, which is named Thinking Foundation. And it was about what they've done. And it was still about discussion on female leadership and what it takes for a woman to manage family and kids. I was thinking, are we still talking about this? Are we serious? Is there still a need to discuss about all this?
Obviously, yes.
Obviously, yes. But I was really thinking,
My goodness, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I'm 52 and I started Ladies Drive almost 20 years ago. And we literally thought, in 20 years' time, Ladies Drive, there's no need
exactly
to have a women's business magazine. No. And now, fast forward 20 years are past, and we see it's still needed, and it's so crazy.
And actually, I think even more than before, because as I said, we cannot reduce the level of attention. Now we have to push to really implement the change even more, because we sacrificed a lot. We have been really, to get where we are, our mothers and grandmothers and grandmothers had to struggle a lot. I was watching a beautiful piece of theater, which I really recommend. It's Coco 5, it's called, from a Jacqueline Fricci. You pronounce that better than me.
Jacqueline Fricci.
That's right, that's right. And also, she was representing the life of Coco Chanel. She spent some time in Lausanne. I didn't know she lived 9 years in Lausanne, right? She's even buried in Lausanne, I've learned. So, and for instance, even the portrait she had of Coco Chanel, it was so emblematic of the struggle that a woman at the time had to have to accomplish what she did. And the story was also that apparently she wasn't married just because she was coming from a very poor family, and despite she had all these men interested in her, nobody dared to get the lady for whatever prejudice. So it takes a lot of time, and we should not forget the struggle how our mother, grandmother, and grandmother had to arrive where we are, to sit here. My grandmother was going to wash clothes by hands to the local fountain with a donkey for 6 kids. If I will tell Nonna, she died when I wasn't born, so she couldn't meet me. But if I will tell her today, she will be 100 something. Nonna, I am sitting here and I'm talking with Sandra Stella at Ladies Drive. She will say, what is,
What's wrong with you?
No, she wouldn't even know what we're talking about. If I would tell her, Nonna, I'm working. When I became a mother, I used to work in Grenzach and live in Düsseldorf. So I used to take a plane. And every morning when I used to get up to catch a plane down to Basel, I was thinking, if I will tell this to my grandmother, that I'm going to work with a plane when she was using a donkey. That's the example. It's massive how it changed, but we can't rest. That's my motto.
But still, I think we need to include men into this mission.
Of course.
We need.
Well, of course. It's without saying it. I'm not saying that they
because it's this yin and this yang and both together.
Absolutely. And there is another point. You get me completely right on this, and I'm completely with you. And when we go to this women's health event, now finally they've become very popular. We did our forum in Zurich in the first one in 2017. It was named International Forum on Women's Brain and Mental Health. We've been pioneering, okay? We did 3 of those in town. I didn't have the energy to do a 4th one. Maybe we're going to do it next year. I don't know, but that's another story. The story I want to say is that, it was my priority at the time to have, of course, male colleagues from pharmaceutical industry, from startups, sitting in the room. What I see today, and this is really annoying me, is that most of the time when you go to this women's health type of gathering, or when we speak about the women's health gap and you organize a panel, just women. So I always say, ladies, look, do me a favor, get out of this room, go in the Congress Hall, catch all the men that you find on the corridor, hold their hands, bring them in, because we need them to solve this problem together. So I'm completely with you. I want to see, especially when there is such a problem that has to be solved by a collective of players, the male representative in the room. And I think it's even more beautiful and interesting. As I said, I had wonderful male role model, and doesn't mean that I became like them, but I got the inspiration to become a medical doctor, for instance, because I thought I want to do a job that they told me it's only for men, and if you are a medical doctor, you cannot have kids, and you cannot do this, and you cannot do that. I said, you know what? I'm going to show you that I can. And that's it.
We can have it all, but not all at once.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
That's the tricky thing about it.
This is true for everybody, even for men, I think. You need to learn to delegate. I think delegating, it's a phenomenal power that it is not really taught and discussed enough. Delegate. Whatever you can delegate, of course.
But you cannot delegate your mission.
No, this is
that
not.
You have with
the
foundation. But
you can replicate.
So what if someone's listening or watching this conversation, this podcast, and thinks, how can I help?
Different ways. So the first type of help we need, it is certainly to conduct our independent research. Research costs and a lot. And we have been not resting one day, neither one night, since we began in 2017. So to support our independent research, and I underline independent, you remember we said those who made the problem are not going to solve the problem. So you need an independent voice in the game if you really want to challenge the status quo. Financially, because it means to give the means to the researcher, to the advocate, to the patients. We work a lot with patients also. The voice to change the world and do it significantly. Money talk. And if you want to walk the talk, you need the money. So it's a little bit of word playing. Other thing, it is be our ambassador. So be an ambassador of the work.
Spread the word.
And spread the word, exactly. Another thing, it is follow our science. We have established an academy, an educational academy, where we educate to the scientific element of our work. We publish more than 120 peer-reviewed publications, 5 books. We've done, I don't know how many talks and TEDx and congresses, events. So now we decided to put everything together and educate the different type of stakeholders, from students to, the lay public, to policymakers, to what it means sex and gender precision medicine as an whole, deep dive on brain and mental health. And finally, but not least, how you could help, it's certainly bring me that philanthropist that is going to give me 30 million out of pocket to make
30? You need 30 million?
Yeah.
Swiss francs?
We did a nice budget calculation, 5 years, 30 million. So I know that there are some philanthropists around. They are very generous with establishing research center, often directed by men. So I'm now looking for the female philanthropist who wants to put the asset to have a dedicated research institute to her name or to any name she wants. And
we will be open to discuss that.
Okay, correct.
Right?
But you know what I mean. I and that's why I wanted a foundation, Sandra. This was my obsession. That's why I said, cannot be that we are an association. An association is done by the people that are part of a board, for example. And once the people are gone, it dissolves, right? My idea was I want to have a foundation because it's not my name, it's not me. It's going to be the legacy of the mission and the vision we have. And once I'm gone.
That's what I say about Ladies Drive. It's not about me.
Exactly.
It's about empowering others and creating these safe spaces where we can meet different generations, people from different industries, and help each other.
And you need to get a legacy. This is your legacy. This is your legacy. And that's
But it's not about me.
No, but it's a legacy you're leaving to the world, to the planet, to the next women to be, to what will be after you are not there anymore. Because one day we're all gone, right? I mean, and you have to
definitely. That's for sure.
Exactly. So it's what do you want to leave behind you? We are privileged. I think you need to be lucky to do what we are doing. There is also a luck component along our path.
It is.
Hard work, I think you agree, and really perseverance. And then it's a time to give it back and to say, no, it's not just for me, it's for everybody.
But the thing about what you do is what maybe people need to understand. You're not only helping women or to understand more about the female brain, for instance, or the female heart or whatever. It's the more we understand about the female brain, we do know more about the male brain as well. So because it's the flip side of it.
This is why we call it sex and gender precision medicine. It's about doing medicine in a precise fashion. At the moment, we have the approach that it's not my term. It has been coined by Eric Topol, which is a leader in the medical ecosystem overall. I think he's the editor-in-chief of Medscape, but I might be wrong. Or at least he was, for sure, if not anymore. Eric Topol coined the terminology of shallow medicine. What we have today, it's a shallow medicine. It's just very superficial, right? We are, in a way, certainly different in terms of men and women, but it's also about how much tall you are, how much short you are, which is your weight, which is your wealth. Wealth makes you sick or healthy in a different way, if you know what I mean. It's your geography, where you live. If you live in New Delhi, your health will be different than if you live up on a mountain in Switzerland.
In Appenzell.
Zum Beispiel. So I think that's what we define as precision medicine, considering all those characteristics that are belonging to an individual and tailor a treatment and care and preventative medicine based on your specific traits. And this is possible. So what we're doing, for instance, now at the foundation, it's a huge research project that costs 5 million, speaking about money, and we're looking for a sponsor. We are creating a data lake. So we are collecting data, either private, public, any data that are out there, let's put it this way, and wanted to be given to us, because you need to have someone who decide to give you the data. Create a data lake of harmonized data, because data now, everybody's talking about data, AI, but if you don't harmonize the data are useless, right? You cannot just compare pears and tomatoes. You have to make an harmonization of the language data speak and read the data. Then arrives generative AI and cracks the data, does what I cannot do, what you cannot do, what even 10 people together cannot do, or 100 people together cannot do, and makes sense of all this data and creates the so-called knowledge graphs. So it's kind of suddenly you have a prompt query in the system, like imagine a ChatGPT with a specific question like, why is this woman that is 50 years old and that tall experiencing symptoms of brain fatigue, and which is a likelihood of evolving into Alzheimer or to having maybe Parkinson's disease, whatsoever. And then the piece behind, it's going to have like a predictive value of what can come out of the data and give you that type of answers. So that's what we're working on, for example. And this is where I think that in the era of big data, of generative AI, of agentic AI, precision medicine is a must. It's an imperative. It's doable. It's where we want to put our money. Which is our priority? Is it going to be the next war and spend money into arms and, whatsoever, or do we prioritize health and well-being of this planet? It's who's taking this decision. Where do we put our assets? Where do we put our brains and time?
One of my last questions in these podcast series is, what would you never do again? Is there something you would never do again?
Oh, this is a funny one. Yes, I always make a joke, and I always say that, but I hope that my husband is not listening, my kids are not listening, that my father and my mom are not. Exactly. I would invest my best years, meaning my youth, not chasing the love and the crazy guy, because I really had a collection of impossible.
You had a collection.
Exactly. Of impossible cases. Like they were all kind of, impossible cases to solve. Because if I would have done that, today I would have 3 Nobel Prizes. That's my cracking jokes. I would say if I would have put all that energy that I put in chasing the big love at that time when I was young and, still very young, I would have today 3 Nobel Prizes. I'm pretty sure. Not 1, 3.
3.
Yes.
You're still young.
So my advice is to the girl out there, don't do that mistake ever, because you lose a lot of energy and it's not worth it. Put into something more tangible. On the other hand, I think it's part of being young. So
yes,
maybe that's belong to that.
And what advice would you give to everyone listening?
I think that there is one advice I might give, which is measure your life by the level of joy you have while doing things. There is only one parameter to success, in my opinion. It's joy. If you are happy and joyful in what you do, whatever you do, then you are leading a good life. If you are unhappy, if you are thinking, this is not my right job, this is not my right partner, this is not the situation I want to be, change it. It's not worth it to stuck into something that makes you feel miserable. That's my advice. Measure how much joy you have in anything you do. If you have enough joy, it's worth it. If not, drop it, change. If you can. Not everyone can.
What's the percentage of joy you have at the moment in your job?
I think I'm wired to almost 99%.
Wow.
I'm a very...
You must be one of the luckiest persons I know.
I removed all the hats. I removed all the hats. I mean, I was having very senior executive roles in different type of corporations and organization. Now I've picked my main reason to be alive, which is the foundation. I do also other things, like I advise startups. I work for the Swiss government as a mentor at InnoSwiss. But I have a lot of freedom in choosing where to put my time. And freedom, it's magic. I can say it's a privilege. I know that I'm a very privileged woman, and it took me a long time and many sacrifices, many. I suffered also a lot in my life. I had many circumstances where I was in pain, and it's not easy to get out of that hole. I mean, I told you, for instance, with my first pregnancy, and there are other things that, of course, I went through. Now it's a blessed phase of my life, despite my 51 years old and my menopause.
You love your menopause, I heard before. You just mentioned that because we were having coffee before you started this podcast. And she said, I like it. Are you crazy?
No, you know what I like about it? The level of freedom that it gives you. The fact that you're not depending anymore.
The hot flashes, the whatever.
I mean, shall we list all the effects of being still fertile? Shall we talk about that? What it means to have a mood swing before your menstrual cycle, or having certain type of desire when the peak of the ovulation was high, or having cramps to your belly, bleeding every month. Shall we make a list?
Remind me.
Okay, so you
I always
see,
forget. Maybe I always forget.
Are you with me there? No, I mean, it's a transformation. Let's put it black and white, and let's discuss as we should. I mean, I'm a medical doctor. There are, physiological changes that occurs. We have to acknowledge them. What I think it is a must for the scientific community and for each doctor and scientist out there, it is to understand why there are certain women that have menopause with some components, but pretty much okay. And for instance, they will never develop Alzheimer's disease. And why there are women that get many awful elements of having these menopausal changes, and then it becomes pathological. It's like with pregnancy. You can have a very happy, healthy pregnancies, and then there are those women that have pregnancies at risk.
Nightmare. Yeah.
At risk, or with many, many problems like high blood pressure, or with diabetes during the pregnancy. There are, all these components. Why? That's what we need to understand and protect those women that are more at risk of those, and give all the solutions to have a good quality of life. Because in the end, it's quality of life. We cannot change biology. And frankly, I don't want to imagine myself becoming mother, at least for me, with 80 years old. For God's sake, I don't want that, There was once David Sinclair, I'm sure you know about him, that was showing the effect of one of his compound on mice, and it was showing that the mice suddenly had a wonderful fur, again rejuvenating, and then the ovary were rejuvenating. And I said, okay, wait a second, I'm fine with gain wonderful hair and wonderful skin, but I'm not sure that I want to have functioning ovary with 80. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there is a time for everything.
Going back to black would be very nice.
It's
despite the fact I love my white hair.
I also think so. I also think you look gorgeous, and I am going to hopefully. It takes time, but it's again also the prejudice. Maybe this, I don't know if it should be shared in public, but for my husband is a problem. Like he always tells me, no, I want to have you with colored hair. Please don't go with white hair. So it's although he has white hair, and I find him completely attractive with white hair, it's not the other way around. Why?
Yeah, lucky me. My husband told me, just leave it like it is. You will always look gorgeous. And I love him so much for that.
Exactly, and you do look gorgeous, and it's just the way how our eyes perceive certain things, right? And I'm pretty sure that if suddenly I will be in front of my husband with white hair or pink hair or yellow hair, he will still say you look gorgeous. It's just the fear and the kind of, it's what you don't know makes you very scared sometimes.
Let's imagine you are reborn as a man in your next life.
I will be reborn
What would
as
you
a
be?
man. I tell you why I will be reborn as a man. I married an Indian. An Indian have 7 lives. And it says that you keep on marrying that person 7 times, but you keep switching roles, something like that. Now, I'm not into all the details. But so let's say, yes, I'm going to be born as a man for sure. And what was the question?
What would you become?
The job I will do. First choice would be a ballet dancer. One of these beautiful. I've seen Billy Elliot, the movie, maybe 4 times. I just loved it. And when you go to the ballet here downtown and you see this wonderful bodies jumping, full of muscles, I think that would be my first attempt. If I wouldn't succeed, I will go for my plan B, that might be becoming maybe a farmer. I would love to have a big farm. And if I don't succeed being a farmer, I will be a minister. But this I will do it even now, irrespective of being man or a woman. So my plan B, it is to become a farmer. If I don't succeed, I'm going to be a minister of health.
We will never find out. But wish you best of luck for that. Grazie mille.
A te, mia cara.
Dottore Antonella Santuccione Ciada. Thank you so much for this wonderful, inspiring conversation with a lot of new facts for me, at least. I hope it was for you out there listening or watching as well. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and best of luck for finding maybe male or female investors for your cause. All the best.
Thank you. You took
Grazie
really
mille.
the real essence out of me, which is very special to me.
Grazie mille.